a hussy house, if you will. I like hussy house. Let's go with hussy house. I say that and then I can't say it. Anyway, recently I went on a bit of an extreme horror binge, and I read 4 new extreme horror books that I'm here to bring to your attention. I read all of these on the Kindle app on my phone. Just so easy, so accessible. It's really convenient, it's really nice. I have 4 different books that I read recently that I wanted to talk about. The first one was kind of a unique out there choice for me. I'm not afraid of clowns at all, but despite that, I figured why not give it a shot. Tatters by Ash Ericmore. This is about a clown named Harold, and he's feeling very disillusioned because nobody is afraid of him anymore. I remember a few years back there was this influx of people dressing like clowns and just not necessarily committing acts of violence, but just existing and creeping people out. Just like standing outside and being creepy. Harold is sort of presented as one of those where he just wants to creep people out. He just stands in the bushes and waits for someone to notice him, that sort of thing. But it's gotten to the point when people see him that they're just like, oh, you know, don't worry about Harold. Like everybody just knows it's him, and no one takes him seriously. He very much wants to figure out how to be scary again. You get this other character who is another clown, goes by Howdy, who is kind of his confidant, giving him questionable advice. It starts with the premise that he wants to just be scary again, but it very quickly just sort of turns into a revenge story on all the people who didn't think he was scary. It's purely revenge to not have a general impact on people as a whole, but just to get back at them, that they weren't scared of him, so they will be now. So we'll just leave it at that without getting into too many details. I will say that I think the end of the book would be controversial. As far as the book itself, again, I'm not scared of clowns. This book didn't make me scared of clowns. But I really, really enjoyed reading it. I found it very easy to read, despite the fact that it definitely does fit the description of extreme horror. If you like this kind of story writing, the extreme violence and whatnot, it's just like a nice time. It's just like it's a fun read. This one did not wreck my life. This one was just kind of what I feel like a lot of people would be looking for with this sort of genre. The next one that I read is a book called Them, and that's by Mique Watson. The premise of this one is that you have our main character, Jeanette, and she is at home just sort of vibing, ready to relax after a hard day at work. This really creepy thing happens where one of those emergency messages on the TV, it's kind of cutting in and out, but right before it goes dead and everything, like all the electricity goes dead, the last thing that she hears from the television is, "They look like people." So I'm like, okay, like this is not just a gore fest. This is a little creepy, little trepidation, you know? So the basic story is her trying to survive these creatures that do look like people. They do not act like normal people. They're just on this rampage where they're trying to just kill everybody, but in an exorbitantly crude and violent and vile and disgusting and perverted way. The book at no point in time explains why these creatures are like, there's no explanation as to why these creatures are the way that they are, where they came from, why they're here. You look at the cover of the book and to me it gives sort of a like alien vibes, but the book doesn't specifically state that. It's very, very gory, very sexual. It's very violent. You get about 25% in where it's just this buildup and this kind of sense of dread, which I really enjoyed that part. And then yeah, about 25% in, that's when you gets hot and heavy, it gets thick, and it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. Surprisingly, emotional though. As much as you can, I feel like you're always going to go into these sorts of books with a level of detachment, because why wouldn't you? There was a surprising moment towards the end, which I won't give any spoilers, but I thought it was surprisingly tender, honestly, until it wasn't. But for a minute there, it was real nice, and I and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that little moment before they took it away. With these stories, they can't be too long, I feel like, because if you're doing an extreme horror with extreme graphic violence and gore, it's gonna lose impact if it goes on too long. So it needs to be short, but because it's short, it also doesn't get the opportunity to delve into like the background. Again, we don't know for sure who or what these creatures are. We don't know where they came from. We don't know why they're doing what they're doing. There's no motive. It's just this insane thing that's happening. So the next one is called Magick by Judith Sonnet. And this one was kind of fun because I read the whole thing and then realized in the afterword that apparently this was part of a challenge, like a 10-day challenge. Write the story, edit the story, and get it published in 10 days. So I'm like, that's incredibly impressive for any author to be able to accomplish. I will say though that I do think, I guess I'm curious, because I know this author has written other things, so I'm curious what her writing is like if she doesn't have those sorts of limitations. I'm curious to check her out again, because there were times where I felt like, in hindsight, after I found out that it was part of this challenge, maybe if she had more time, this part would have been tweaked a little bit, you know, like that sort of thing. So our plot of Magick. This is kind of like a haunted house story, sort of, except instead of a regular house, it is a whorehouse. You have this building, it is called the Dobson House. It was, you know, where prostitutes used to work, and then there was an event where Henry Dobson, the dude there, he killed the prostitutes that were working there. And since then, the place has been haunted in a sexy sort of way. Like in a, everyone who goes there just gets irrationally horny. They get very, frisky, you know? And not just frisky, they get like violently frisky, like the very depraved version of frisky. Towards the beginning of the book, you have an example of some psychics who go to this house just to sort of demonstrate what goes on there. That event with the psychics is in 1933, and then it jumps forward to 2022, and that's just like another part of the history of the house. So when we jump forward, our main character is called Jace, and she owns the property now because no one else wants it. Now she works as an adult film director, and she writes and directs these films, and she thinks that owning this property is going to be great because they're going to be able to film their spicy films there, and just being on the property in theory should make everybody real frisky, which is just going to make the films even better, right? Again, neglecting the violent part, you know, because that it's not like a thing that you can just like turn off. Like you go there and you're influenced and you can't really help it very much anymore. Like it's just you kind of, yeah. So needless to say, it goes like, okay, I feel like it's not a surprise how this goes. Like what else would you expect, right? Like if you're accepting that this house is what it says that it is, well, they go there and then exactly what you would think would happen does happen. So there's really no surprises, but as far as the execution of the book, it is very gory. It is very gross. It is very horny. It's, yeah, I mean, it's just everything you could want. This is kind of a perfect example of it ended right when it needed to. As soon as I started to feel like the violence and the descriptions were starting to lose their impact, the story came to an end. So it was really well timed in that regard, because if it had gone on any longer, I would have really stopped caring about what was happening. Okay, now the last one that I read recently is one that I have seen around quite a lot from other YouTubers and stuff like that. And it's called Dead Inside by Chandler Morrison. So this one, I've heard so much about. I'm not sure if I just blanked it out or if a choice was made to not name our main character. If he has a name, I somehow read the entire story without ever allowing it to sink in. So if it's in there and I'm just dumb, my bad. I don't know what to tell you. So we have our dude, our guy, this dude, some guy. He works as a security guard in a hospital. And he does this on purpose because he likes to have frisky time with the dead bodies. So he intentionally works at a hospital where he can go to the morgue after hours. He works third shift and have his fun time. And also, since he works on the floor, he kind of pays attention to when, if there's a woman that he thinks is pretty, he like pays attention and sees if she's not doing so hot, and that way he has an idea of, oh, yeah, she's not gonna last long, I'm gonna see her downstairs in a day or two, like that sort of thing. He keeps an eye on that. So he's just kind of like vibing and living his life and doing his thing. He doesn't kill people, he doesn't do anything like that. He just likes to have sex with dead bodies. That's it. Then he meets this woman who is a doctor in the maternity ward, and she has a name. She gets a name. What's her name? Helen. So her name is Helen. And her thing is that she likes to eat the babies. She does not kill them. She just, if that happens anyway, then she will partake. And he accidentally walks in on her partaking in her hobby. And of course, he, with his proclivities, he's not too concerned. He's not going to report her or anything like that. And it's kind of like, the whole story is, I don't know if I want to say it's a story of friendship. But you have these two absolute freaks kind of getting to know each other. She is clearly much more interested in getting closer to him than the other way around. But it's still happening regardless. They try combining their interests. So this one was definitely the hardest for me to read out of the group. It's definitely like I can do it, but it's always the babies. It's always the babies that it's like, oh, I know you're doing it on purpose, but that doesn't make it less effective. Yeah, I don't want to give too much other information about the story. I will say, out of all of these specific stories that I read, this one is the most well written, in my opinion. Like, our main character, it's just really, he's so emotionally stunted. It's very, very important to him to not feel like he's like a normal dude. Like, he's just so different. Like, other people don't understand. It's like that vibe of when you're a teenager, and that's a normal phase to go through, but most people outgrow it. He did not outgrow it. However, it's like he is a little freak, more so than the average person, but it doesn't change the fact that reading this, you get this very teenage angst feeling. Like, there's a quote, "Some nights I go to the graveyard because it's always been the only place where I can truly relate to people." And it's not bad writing. It's not because it shapes who this character is. Like, that's who this character is. So, I know it sounds probably insane that I'm calling this character melodramatic when he's having frisky time with dead bodies, but I call him like I see him. Like, he's so, like, emotionally stunted and so insecure. He wants to be with the women who can't criticize him because he's so sensitive, you know? Like, he that's why he can't handle live partners, because he's just so, he can't handle the idea of criticism or having to care about anyone but himself. But that's what makes him special and, like, better than everybody in his head. Like, it's written in such a way where it's like, again, it's well written because it's shaping who this character is, but he's annoying, but so is the woman. And I think that's also an attribute to the writing, because both of these characters are annoying, but you still like reading about them. Like, she's annoying in a very different way. She's just very, like, desperate and clingy, and it's like, ugh, like, you're kind of, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. But despite that, it just, the characters, if the way that a character is written is making you feel something about them, whether it's like or dislike, then to me that's effective writing. I don't know, man. Honestly, it was just a hoot. I enjoyed it. I don't plan to ever read it again, but it was a hoot. And I definitely want to read more from this author. If you're new to extreme horror, or if you just haven't read any of these books before, what I would say is, if you are looking for something that's gory and violent but fun and just kind of easy reading, then I would recommend Tatters. If you're looking for, like, really good writing and you want developed characters and you want, like, something intense, then I would recommend Dead Inside. If you just really want something smutty, if you like reading about spicy violence and emphasis on the spice, then I would definitely recommend Magick. And if you want kind of more of like a survival story that does have bits of all of those elements in it, then I would recommend them. I enjoyed all of these books. Some of them were less easy to get through, but my brain is broken. I did enjoy them, despite all the reasons why I probably shouldn't. If you're still here, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And maybe I'll see you next time. Sort of on like a ramp. Let's try that again.